Well, hello everyone.
Hello.
Hello everyone. Okay. You all over here, you cannot see, and also the people on the live stream cannot see each other, but for the people on the live stream, we have a packed room, sort of, kinda. We have a good crowd, so people who are here, maybe make some noise for the people on the live stream.
Then we're like, okay, we're gonna do this side. So, no.
I can't hear you.
So we're excited to have you over here. We are the Sourcing7, and you are all the Sourcing7 community. So thank you for coming, thank you for being, and thank you for being interested in us. We are very excited to have you over here and have a conversation about communities and talent communities and how you can benefit from building and participating in those. But before we get there, quick introductions. My name is Adam Kovacs. I'm one of the people behind Sourcing7, one of the many. We'll do a shout out to all of them at the end. And we also have Todd Davis over here. Do you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, I trying to remember. I was either first half, second generation, third generation S7, and it's just, I mean, I can't tell you. I'm almost choking up a little bit. I'm actually honest about this. It's like coming back. I was in Arizona for like 6 years and came back, and I was at Talent 42, and you can go watch the podcast where we talk about this, but I was approached, what happened to the Sourcing7? What happened to the sourcing or TA community in Seattle? And everybody's been through hell. I mean, it's been rough. And just to see this room filled and know what's going on online and seeing this come back is incredible. And I've had the opportunity along with that and all the other great board members, advisors, and volunteers with S7 to bring this back. So I am totally honored and so thankful that you guys are here tonight.
Thank you yourself. Okay. We have a jam-packed event. We want to show you something that we think that the community needs to know about. We have one of our amazing sponsors, Turazo, over here, who will show what they are building and how they are building and how communities can benefit from Turazo. And while, yes, I like to be transparent, they are a sponsor for the event. So thank you, and a round of applause to them as well. We are not doing this for money. We are doing this because we actually believe in
Hold on a second, what?
Doing it for blood.
No, the reason I'm saying is that yes, we are sponsors, but we believe in their product as well, and we are actually building some goodness together with them that we'll do a little bit of announcement at the end. But beside Turazo, we also need to say a huge thank you to Expedia Group and Michelle.
Yep.
I just snuck over here. Yeah, I just snuck over.
Oh no. You want to find one?
Oh, yeah, stand in the middle. Thank you.
I feel bad.
Yeah, maybe you should sit down so we can all be at the same at the same level. How's that? Okay. Yeah, okay. Now I'm gonna stand back up. Now that I have them sitting down. I do want to just welcome you all to Expedia. Thank you for being here. I'm Michelle Taylor, and I'm one of the delivery managers for recruiting. My team supports global legal and global finance here at Expedia. And I and about 13 other Expedians who are in the room, some of whom have Expedia shirts on and lanyards, and please go chat with them throughout or when this is over and just talk about Expedia, hear a little bit more about us. We all want to welcome you to our home away from home. Pretty spectacular place, isn't it? Pretty amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're really happy to have you here. I'll say that I think Todd just said, you might get choked up. I'm gonna have a minute. I'm gonna take a breath. I'm gonna try not to get choked up about this. This is super exciting for me as well. I'm not gonna go into all the history, but kinda. Back in 2009, am I getting pulled off stage? It can happen. Sometimes I have to be reeled in, okay? And it's okay for me to do that. But back in 2009, 7 people got together and said, hey, we want to learn from one another, and we want to network, and we want to grow our careers, and we're really passionate about what we're doing. And like any good group of people that get together and say these things, we said, well, we want to also share this with others. We want others to be involved. But before we do that, we have to come up with a cool name. So S7 was born. And the plus, like we talked about a little earlier, is all of you in the room. And it's just really exciting to see S7 back in action. So again, thank you all for being here, and look forward to hearing the rest of the evening how it goes. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for also making this possible and hosting us and having us over here. It's been a while that there was a huge group in one room, so it's good to feel the energy again. But that being said, we give the stage to the amazing folks at Terrazzo. It's you.
Thank you. Do I need to use this in order for
For the recording, it might be better.
Okay, cool.
And if you want to introduce everyone, or
Yeah, I'll do that. So hello everyone, welcome back and congratulations to Sourcing7 on being back in person. Thank you very much for having us. And yeah, thank you Expedia. This is, for a startup, it gives you something to aspire to. My name is Pete Cipollone. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Terrazzo. We'll show you a little bit more about what we do in a moment, but I wanted to introduce Kevin Collins, my co-founder and CTO, and one of our advisors, Sean Killian, who, in addition to having spent about 11 years in Indeed, being sort of very wise in the talent acquisition space, is also an Olympic swimmer. Okay. So another question: Can I go off? Do I have to stay like right here, or can I? No, I just want to. Yeah, okay.
you got full ownership.
All right. So, with that, I'm just going to talk for a second about Terrazzo and what it is that we do. So we're a software company based in San Francisco, and we're built around a very simple principle that when it comes to hiring, the right conversation with the right person at the right moment leads to transformational outcomes. So what does that mean? I'm going to save it for the video. I do want to say we're very proud of our customers. We have an awesome set of what I will call culture-forward companies. We have Justin Levine of Fluke Corporation, so Director of Talent Acquisition, who is one of those awesome customers and is going to be speaking today, as well as companies like BP, AT&T, Dell, Under Armour, Xerox, and lots more. But it's a fantastic group of companies who really recognize the value that culture comes from the people that you have, and by connecting candidates to those people so that they can, if you will, break through the glass door, can see what it's really like to work at a company and can envision themselves there. Now, with that, let me show you just a quick, I promise it's only 90 seconds.
It's all about who you know and who you're connecting with. Candidates report trusting an employee's opinion 3 times more than a company for information on a workplace, such as workplace culture, inclusiveness and diversity, internal mobility and mentorship. That's why at Terrazzo, we're all about connecting candidates with your best cultural ambassadors, your employees, which we're already facilitating for some of the most innovative companies in the world. Here's how we do it. We set you up with your own private network with customizable branding tailored for your own messaging. You invite prospects to your network in whatever way you choose, and they book conversations with whoever they find engaging, all while being matched by our machine learning-based personalization algorithm. Your team has super engaging one-to-one conversations with enthusiastic prospects, with more than 94% of prospects rating the experience 5 out of 5 stars. All while keeping employee commitments easy to manage for sustainably scaling your network. Employees spend less than an hour a month, And our powerful analytics track the entire process, identifying actionable insights, assessing sourcing effectiveness, and exporting data to third-party software for seamless integration with your recruiting pipeline. It's all about who you know. Get to know us at terrazzo.com.
So my name is Justin Levine. I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition at Fluke Corporation. Anybody, by show of hands, familiar with Fluke? Whoa, that's great. Good to see. So we're based up in Everett. We're an operating company under the Fortive brand. We have about 5,000 employees worldwide, but our headquarters is up in Everett. So I don't know, Pete, if you have questions for me, if you want me to go and tell the story of how we met and how we got to where we are.
I do have questions for you. What I wanted to do first was to show Connected Fluke. And then let me hold this up. And now, let's sit down and chat.
Okay.
All right. So, first, thank you for coming. Tell us a little bit about Connected Fluke, where it came from, then how it works.
Yeah, so really under the premise of Terrazzo, like wanting to connect job seekers, candidates with company representatives. So we call them ambassadors, and you can choose what you want to call them. But for us, we chose ambassadors, and what we realized is that when we can help candidates understand our culture, the more enthused they are about wanting to work there. And it really helps get them across the finish line of like, oh yeah, this job's interesting. Okay, maybe I'd like to work here. I hope I get a job here. And after having these conversations, and the premise around it was like, if we can share our culture, and we can really show what it's really like to work here, that's going to be a differentiator for us. People are going to say, not only do I hope that this, like, I really want this to work out. It's not just, okay, yeah, I'll apply and we'll see what happens, but actually try to get them really interested and passionate and enthusiastic about joining the company and being part of a culture. And so, being familiar with the premise of connecting people, we thought this was the program for us. And so it was really easy to work with Pete and his team around the configuration of it. As I mentioned, you can sort of talk about like how you want to approach your employee base with their participation in the program. When do you want candidates to actually come into the process and become a participant? A lot of this is like up to you. You can figure how it's going to work. And so for us, it turned out to be a really good program. You can see it in the slides as you're reading ahead there, but happy to talk about some of the results that we've seen since implementing the program.
Okay, so a handful more questions. What was the most surprising effect or thing that you learned through Connect with Fluke?
A couple things. One, I didn't think that it was going to be as successful as it was, and have to be skeptical about it. But going into a new program, you just don't know what it's going to be like and how people will respond to it. And so there's an element of experimentation. Are we introducing people or inviting them at the right point in their journey, right? And so there's a little bit of experimentation there. How are the employees going to respond to it? Is it too burdensome for them to have all these conversations? And so going into it, there's a little bit of unknown, but I think what was most surprising is one, the overwhelming positive feedback from the candidates. I think the stats on there, like 97%. In my wildest dreams, I wouldn't have guessed it would be 97%. And I'm an ambassador, so I meet with candidates as part of the process, and unanimously when they come through, they're like, no other company that I've applied to is doing this. This is so awesome. I wish that other companies provided the service and allowed me to talk to someone who's actually at the company. And one of the things that we found, and one of the reasons why we wanted to do this program, was to help candidates that are in underrepresented groups try to find and connect people like them and have been on a similar journey and say, what's it really like? Like, I can read the propaganda, I can see the stuff that's on your website, I can read all that stuff, but like, tell me, as someone that has a similar journey, what's it really like being there? And the ambassadors have complete candor, they share what it's like, the good and the bad, and I think that honesty and authenticity really helps a candidate make an informed decision on, wow, I really want to be at this company. And to be fair too, it's also helpful if someone says, oh, okay, that's actually not for me. It's helpful for all parties. So that's one thing that was surprising, is just how much uptake we had on the candidate side. I think the second side would be the ambassador feedback. And so people that participate in this program, they are reminded and they're energized about the good things at work. So it's easy to get cynical in our jobs and be like, oh, this isn't great, it's this, I'm just working here. But having these conversations and talking to other people about the things that you appreciate about your job, about your company, and reinforcing things that elicit pride really helps reinforce satisfaction. And so we found that the ambassadors, they really enjoy having those conversations. It kind of takes them back to, I used to be on, I was on that side of it a long time ago, and I remember what it's like, and it helps reinforce that. And we've got learnings along the way. There's definitely things that we're still learning, how to make it easier for ambassadors to participate in the program. But the enthusiasm and the feedback that we get from the ambassadors about how it energizes them and reminds them about the good things about working at the company, that's been a surprise as well.
Fantastic. Last question. What's next for the program?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we had a really good rollout in the Americas last year. This year we're proliferating out worldwide. So we've gone live in Europe, and then plans for Asia. I'd like to say Q4, but probably it's going to be Q1 of next year. So it's more around global expansion. Yeah, just seeing if this will resonate and land the same way that it has in the US. And again, trying to find that right balance with our ambassadors where they have that excitement and they're engaged doing it, but also it doesn't become a burnout situation where they're like, oh my God, this is a lot. And I don't know, for those of you that are familiar with the platform, one of the really nice things about the ambassador engagement is that the ambassador sort of sets what their availability is. And so, if you're hitting a period where you're really heavy and if you're really busy at work, you can scale that down and say, I'm available for like 1 hour this month. That's it. And once that token is used, that's great. You've done it, you've done your service, and you're not going to get bombarded with more invites. And I think that one of the things is, the administrator of the program is to make sure to go back and for those that have scaled down, is to like, hey, are you at a time when you go back up? You took it down to 1 hour, but can you go back up to maybe 2 hours this month or 3 hours? And so just, being engaged with your ambassadors is probably another thing that we want to continue to keep a focus on, not just with the global expansion, but just keeping the ambassador community vibrant and making sure that they don't get, to a point where they scale down and then don't come back up.
Very good. Okay, Justin, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Should I stay up here?
Just that you will stay.
Okay, awesome.
And I want to invite Lara, Marvin, join. And I'll also get an extra mic.
Hello, Marvin. Yes, nice to meet you in person.
You have 2 mics that you can share.
So, moving on to the next part, but before that, amazing case study. It's really odd to hear that I wasn't expecting it to be so good, but that 97% stat, like, wow, I think you guys are onto something over there. So I'm excited about what we can together bring to the community as well. And I'm excited for your future users who, might have seen you the first time over here and want to try you out. So, yeah, exciting times ahead. But let's go to the panel conversation part of the night. As I was saying, today is all about talent communities, and while the official term of talent communities is a candidate pool that you as an employee, you hire from, I want to challenge everyone to think more broadly. Because I think when we are talking about talent communities, we need to be aware of the users as well, and we need to answer one of the questions that actually Marvin brings up all the time. It's like, what's in it for me from a participant standpoint. Is that the candidate? Is that the community member? Is that an employee, an employer, etc.? And I think participating in communities has several benefits. And one is, yes, you can get a job, but you can also learn a lot. You can connect with mentors, you can connect with people who think like you or you can learn from. So the community learning aspect of it is also very, very huge. And let's not forget that some communities function well, some communities don't function so well. So how to get out the most of you participating in a community is also a very important question, and we'll talk about that here today. Well, you already met, excuse me, you already met Justin, who is the Director of Talent Acquisition at Fluke. You lead a global HR organization, and well, you're responsible for everything that HR is, and I think everyone knows what that means in the room, attracting, hiring, onboarding, and well, I assume being a great employer also falls under the responsibility areas of HR. We also have Clara Hermes over here, who is the Global Program Manager on Talent Development and Growth at Uber. By the way, Clara also serves as one of the board directors of the S7, concentrating on education initiatives. And we have the legend, Morgan Smith over here. He is a senior manager of talent acquisition for, is it BECU, B-E-C-U? How do you pronounce that?
If you're in Texas, you call it BECU, but if you're in Seattle, you call it BECU. So. It's a true story. It's a branding problem, you know. You're going into a big state and they have no idea who you are, and so it becomes a humorous event for us. So glad to be here. One thing that we didn't talk about is that Michelle Taylor started this whole thing, and she's a hostess here at Expedia, but Sourcing7 is the result of her. She worked at Starbucks, so naturally we started, the 7 of us got together on a regular basis. We all met at SourceCon, one of the first SourceCons, and we cannot have this event without her knowing it's all her. So she is
Glad I came back.
Yeah.
Timing is everything.
Anyway, did you have a question for me or just? So I work at BECU. I'm a manager in the what we call the talent engagement space. So we have talent intelligence, talent sourcing, recruitment marketing, and some of HR tech under our team. So that's what we do.
Thank you. I'm from Eastern Europe and I learned English from Cartoon Network, so my pronunciation will be all around all the time. But yes, Marvin, you already introduced yourself, and I want everyone else to also to introduce themselves. And I think a good intro for that is for you to answer the question, what is your definition of a talent community and what's in it for you? Who wants to go first? I'll call out. Justin, you have a mic over there on. You go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered it a little bit in the opening. It's a network of people with shared interest. And in the talent space, their interest is getting a job. And so that's at its core. But I think what we should challenge ourselves is to go beyond that and think about how do we learn? And whether it be learning about job opportunities, that's probably the most obvious, but then also learning about culture, and we talked about that with like the Trazo example. Learning about how can I grow and how will I develop in this organization? How can I learn from one another? And so when I think about talent communities, when they're done well, you're getting that type of interaction with one another, and it's more than just a transaction. It really is building a community where there's interaction beyond just transaction. So for me, that's what I see for a talent community.
Thank you. Clara, think you're the closest to the next active mic now.
Yeah, so definitely it has to be value driven. It needs to have a purpose. That's what a talent community is all about. Some people would say that it's also a place for sense making. So you go there, you can check your ideas, you get feedback from your peers. Whatever idea you have, you just have almost like a mirror there, and get some real-time feedback for that. It definitely needs to have a sense of learning, networking, mentorship would be amazing if it's also part of it. And just people getting together who have the same skills or interests or domain or expertise.
Marvin, I'll give you the mic in a moment, but I want to prime your answer a little bit. In our conversations, you had some interesting comments that I do agree with around not just what is a talent community, but what's not a talent community. Would you want to say a few words about that?
Sure. So one of the long-term conversations that's gone on in the talent acquisition space is what is a talent community? And in the earliest days, people thought it would be a database that we emailed people, basically a business development list of some sort where we're sending an email. You know, it's just like LinkedIn with emails. You know, we're all looking for the same people because we're all going through digital transformation at the same time, and people are scarce. So it's becomes then, who do you have a relationship with, and can you have one? And can you think beyond putting butts in seats immediately, and can you think about it strategically? And that's really where the idea of building a longer term relationship came from with me. And so to me, a talent community is where the people, the members, can talk to each other, not just a one-way conversation where you're sending an email to somebody, but truly a community where you have, like was indicated, an affinity, you have a common interest. So, you know, we're in a perfect industry for that because generally we're specialized. You know, we're looking for certain kinds of people. It might be in healthcare and nurses. It might be in IT, and we're looking for software engineers or developers or whatever it happens to be. But there's a limited supply of people. So that one of the ways to get around that is to build a longer term relationship with that target talent. And that's really where, for me, the community experience began, was trying to do that.
Thank you. When we come together, one of the great opportunities that we have is to learn from each other. So I'll pass this to Clara. What is social learning, and how do you do it? How do you do it from a builder standpoint and from a participant standpoint?
Yeah, so there's a lot of confusion around what is social learning, communities of practice. So social learning is actually a concept that was coined by a psychologist in the 60s called Albert Bandura. And it's basically the concept of people learning, imitating each other, mirroring, that's how we learn. When it comes to community learning, that's basically using the power of social learning in a more structured way and getting people together. And when it comes to communities of practice, it's even more structured than community learning. It's usually around a domain. You need practice as well, so people get together to really create resources that the industry will use after. And when it comes to how to do it well, that's a tough question. I am a sourcer at heart. I think I will always be. But in the recent couple of years, I've been in the learning and development industry. And I can tell you, I haven't really seen it done really well. You always need to have someone who thinks about how to engage people. So one of the things that you need to think about is what is going to be that long-term engagement, not just having that community there and they will figure something out. You need some kind of platform for them. You need some kind of rules and roles around it, and also giving them the opportunity to create something.
Thank you. You mentioned that they need a platform, and I think now that we are writing, almost 2024, we cannot talk about providing a platform without talking about technology. And well, these days, artificial intelligence as well. I think there is this interesting intersection of tech, AI, and PA communities that we are, well, either in the middle of that intersection right now or heading towards that. But Justin, I think you might have some good thoughts about the potential left or right turns that you need to take on your way towards that intersection of AI, tech, and communities.
Yeah, I mean, I'll briefly talk about AI and then maybe just broader with technology. I don't know about you, but I think AI is really exciting and fascinating, especially as it applies to talent. You know, you think about things like writing a job description, scheduling interviews. Those are a thorn in, at least I know my organization side, constantly. I would imagine for a lot of you in here too, that it's a pain. And so I think that AI is going to be fantastic at helping us as a tool and helping us get better and be able to spend more of our time being strategic, being able to provide more services to both the candidate and for our business partners, the hiring managers. But the one thing that I don't think AI is going to replicate anytime soon is empathy. And the fact that it may be able to simulate it is one thing, but it's another thing to actually be able to talk human to human. And I think that's something that we have to be really thoughtful of and make sure that we utilize technology and maximize it to its potential, but also we don't lose sight of that human connection. And you know, going back to just even the Terrazzo example, the power of those conversations really couldn't be replicated with a interaction with an AI or some sort of bot. However, the technology platform that allows for a candidate to choose, well, I want to talk to this person. Oh, great, the scheduling is going to be automated, and now I can meet with that person. And it takes care of that all without human interaction. That's amazing. But the conversation is just incredibly powerful. So I think it's important for us to think about harnessing the potential of technology, but also being thoughtful of, we add a lot of value as humans to the process, and let's not lose sight of that.
Now that we have technology over here, we need to be mindful that that was not like that. That's a fairly new thing. And we have Marvin over here who has been doing communities and talent acquisition. Well, I'm a youngster, I was not even alive while you already had 100 hires at least. That felt pretty amazing. No, I'm not saying it from that standpoint. I'm saying it that you have a ton of experience, and I think you're the wise man in the room. So, what's changed in the past half decade? What are the mistakes that you've seen that were made that we can learn from? And what are maybe some old best practices that we forgot about and we should bring them back?
Thank you. I've always been the oldest guy in the room since I went to work at Microsoft in 15, 20 years ago, whenever it was. So I'm used to that, but
It was always the youngest.
yeah. So I think I learned about talent communities from starting in the third-party world as an agency. And that really taught me the value of relationships and the value of our network and how we had people that we spoke to on an annual basis to do kind of a career checkup or whatever it was. And once the internet came along and really put things moving forward very quickly, it kind of of started out with people wanted to help people navigate the internet, and it kind of morphed into something different once we sort of grew up with it, and everybody had it, and everybody sort of switched to the what's in it for me. You know, I used to be able to write an email saying, I need your help. And I used that for probably 10 years, and I would get indirect referrals from people. Suddenly it stopped. It wouldn't work anymore because people were thinking more about, you know, a profession. They became much more focused on the affinity, what Claire was talking about in terms of the user groups. Those are, the more we can be like a user group, the better we are in talent acquisition. The challenge with that is it has to go beyond just a job. It has to be to have a maintain and keep people in orbit around your brand. You'll need to give them relevant and valuable content from time to time. That's why those kinds of communities work for a technical community, and why sometimes the other communities that are geared around people are only last the duration of the person's job search. So if you want a longer contact with people, what I found out is you have to have a relationship, provide them with meaningful conversation, and that's not always a job, and that's not always even a culture, or, you know, talking about your culture. It might be helping them grow, and we're all lifetime learners now, and I think that's one of the things that Clara was talking about with social learning, is if we can offer the people that are our target talent audiences something like that, then we're going to be further ahead. Or do something like Terrazzo is doing, and embed yourself in a community and grow with it. One of the previous sponsors was Seek Out, and they were one of in the second generation, I guess, of Sourcing7. They did a lot of sponsoring, and they used us as a test lab, and they learned and they grew with us. And I think that's another thing that vendor partners can do. And you know, it's the hardest thing for me was to convince hiring managers, and when I worked in recruitment marketing, the people in marketing, that it's about them, not about us. And that's the hardest message to get, because we always want to put out information, branding things that tout us. And we don't know what to do if we're not doing that. And so one of the things that's where the content comes out that's relevant and valuable for them and not for us. You know, there's one thing I learned, and one takeaway is it's not about us, it's about them. And if you want to do well in that marketplace, that's the way you do it long term.
Very, very, very good points. And you mentioned a lot the what's in it for you and the learning aspect of it. So I'll kick the ball back to Clara. Why should someone join? Why should someone be a part of the community, and how can they best benefit from it, in your opinion?
One of my favorite quotes is from a researcher who is doing research in social learning now, and he says, formal learning is done to people by companies. Social learning is a story where everyone has a voice. And I think that's the beauty of why you should join a community. It's a great way to get unstuck. I think one of the reasons why I joined a couple of different talent communities was because I felt stuck in my career, and I really just needed some other people to tell me, like, what should I do? The more diverse a group is, the better solutions you will get. Whether you're bringing your personal problem, whether you're bringing your professional problem, find mentors, find people who you can mentor as well. But I definitely think that the getting unstuck is something that is a great way to think about talent communities. It's also a great way to learn from your peers, learn about your industry, be on top of what's happening, know what is out there.
Thank you. You mentioned diverse communities, and I think that's a very, very important question that a lot of companies, a lot of employers, and a lot of externals out from communities are affinity groups, purpose built to serve that community. What can people do who run and build communities from any perspective? What can they do to ensure that their community is inclusive? And I on purpose start with inclusive, because without inclusivity you won't have any diversity, at least in my opinion. So question to anyone who wants to take it, Justin maybe, what can community builders do to make sure that their groups are inclusive and everyone feels at home and can have a voice?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that come to mind. And it may sound a bit clinical, but set goals. And not just, oh, we want X% on that, but just have ambition and try to aspire to something greater than what you're doing today. And beyond that, rally a group around that to see the value behind it. I think if people understand why we're trying to do something, why we're initiating a program, or why we're doing something, you're going to get so much more buy-in and traction and just belief in the program if you can get that. And so I think that by explaining the value of why we're doing something and trying to set some goals around, we think this is going to do this, because if we do this, it's the right thing to do. So that's one thing that comes to mind. I think another thing is just having a very inclusive approach, which is just omni-channel. People don't necessarily consume information or look for things all on the same channel or platform. People don't have access to information equally. So think about ways that you can reach out to people and get your message across and connect with them and help them learn about what you're offering in multiple channels. So I think that's a way to just recognize that not everybody's in the same place that you are. And you know, a lot of it's also just listening. Go on and ask people, what do you want? Like, how do you consume information? What would you like to know about us that we haven't provided? And listen to your candidates or your customers, and then build that into your program.
For me, if you think about Sourcing7 being a community, and it's really about the people that are involved in the profession paying it forward. We don't discriminate against anyone other than Todd. But, you understand why. But one of the things that happens is all the people that have been involved in the leadership and been part of the community over the years are passionate about the profession. And that brings us together, and we are available to people to answer questions and help each other find jobs and share that kind of information. And so it can be inclusive just around that affinity and that purpose. I like what Justin's talking about, because you do want to set goals within the corporate environment, but it just depends on what you're trying to build and what you're trying to do. But I think it's just being available and sharing that passion. When I look at the room, there's a lot of people that are new to me, and I'm excited that there's a whole new generation of people curious about this profession we're in and what it all means, and it's neat to see.
I would just add one thing. Don't build for people, build with them. I've been in global programs, I was leading global programs before as well, and I think everyone is asking how to do a global first approach. And it's not involving regions after, it's building with them together, and you can do the same thing with the community as well.
Thank you. Before we get to the open Q&A part, we have like 2 minutes for the last question over here before we open it up to the room. All of you mentioned the importance of listening mechanisms and build together, and that brings us to like the two-way communication between you and the participants in your community. Does any of you have any best practices to share on how to ensure that two-way open communication between builders and members of talent communities? Whoever wants to take that question.
I wrote about it. I don't know that I can say it in 2 minutes, but in one of the posts, one of the questions you asked me, it's really about the original content that you can provide to people. So the context for this answer is we created a community called Military Connect when I worked at Lockheed Martin. We eventually had about 20,000 people that were transitioning from military to civilian life go through that. We learned a lot, but the most important thing I learned is that the content that was provided by people who had been there before, the recruiting managers all had served, and they told about their own experiences, their own transitions, and you know, the highlight for me was one time a person that was homeless, a veteran that was homeless, wanted to go to work, and so this group of folks found a place to clothe him. They found a place to get him an interview and help fund him getting there, and he got a job. It was one of those, you know, tingling moments that you don't see often, and that's what can happen in those kind of communities, and where the people really care about that cause, and so it takes that kind of initiative. So, what was the other part of the question? What doesn't work?
Well, you can all learn from mistakes, so if you have any mistakes to share.
Oh, lots, yeah.
Sure,
Well,
just your top two.
You know, I think trying to make it a hiring thing will fail. I mean, I see what you're doing with Terrazzo, but if you just create a community just for hires, long term, you're gonna run out of energy to make it work. The hiring managers, if you have them in there, they can choose to do other things. One of the biggest problems at Microsoft and at Lockheed, they're big companies, and a lot of the stakeholders were on their way up, and so we kept having to re-educate and reorientate people to it, and so you have to have some champions way up the line and have your back. So.
Justin,
What's the
Clara,
time?
if you have any.
I'll be quick. Be curious, and also use data. Doing surveys and talking to people takes a lot of time, and you can actually get a lot of insights by looking at data and not necessarily investing in the survey stuff. Survey stuff is good, but also data can be really powerful, and you can see where people go based off of their behaviors and the experiences that they have, and you can look for insights and trends off of the data. And so that's a way that might be actually really efficient with your time in terms of trying to understand, is this an effective program? Am I getting the right results from it? And what can I learn from it? What can we do differently? And be willing to experiment, right, on that curiosity space.
Clara, two-way communication in learning communities?
Yeah, just be open to feedback. It's not a criticism against you. It's you know, like how communities are ever changing, always evolving. There's always something different, new people coming in, new ideas. So just be open to feedback.
Thank you. Now I'm looking at you all. Questions? Anyone? Wow, this is concerning.
Okay, I'll kick it off.
I'll give you a mic.
Okay. Thank you. This is so inspiring. I have a long list of questions, but I'm not going to ask them all. I won't just fire off question after question here, but the thing that comes to my mind is, let's put this in action. And I love that we talked about the fact that S7 is a talent community and a community of people coming together to learn from one another. And we're in real life here doing this. We're also talking about talent communities in different ways. So how do we do that? So if we were gonna build a talent community tomorrow of people who could get together and talk to one another in a specific functional area, how would we do that? How would we get started? Anyone?
Who wants to take it?
I don't know, first thing that popped in my head is like, why wouldn't we create like a LinkedIn group? That's usually the professional social media platform to use. And it's something where, even just leading up to this event, I think several of you reached out and wanted to connect, which is great. But we can't necessarily have like moderated conversations and something where all of us can see it at the same time. So maybe there's a group on LinkedIn that can get created where people can join in. Or there's something that's specific to the S7, right? And there's, going through and posting there. That's one idea that came to mind.
I took your mic.
I can't help myself. I'm just gonna ask one more question. And I'm gonna stop for a minute. What about internally? We're talking about talent communities of people on LinkedIn, external communities, in person, online. What about internal talent communities? Do you have any experience building internal communities?
Yes. So I used to work at Meta, or formerly known as Facebook, before, and I was leading their social development program, which was a pathway program. We were able to hire really diverse people from very different backgrounds without experience in sourcing. And I was part of the team who built the onboarding for them. It was a great talent community because even though they had zero experience in recruitment, they were learning together. And interestingly, that was one of the only programs that had 100% on a sense of belonging, just because they were learning together and they were sharing their mistakes. And this is how I was setting it up as well, that you should come in and share what was the mistake you made and what did you learn from it. And it was amazing.
I think you can do internally with Slack. There's a lot of different products out there. I would use Facebook if I were doing it externally rather than LinkedIn groups. I have found that LinkedIn groups are not very chatty, and whereas Facebook, we're kind of used to having Meta, I guess it is now. So, anyway, I still think of Twitter and not X and all that too. But
Discord.
It's really, it really comes down to having conversations. Statistically, only about 4 or 5% of a group are going to engage in conversation. The rest of the people kindly are called lurkers. And there's a whole science behind community that's out there. So if you want to explore it, there's a site called Fever-Bee, and that's probably one of the leading places you can get data on communities and how to do it. So, but I'd start with just a conversation with people that want to get together, and talk about whatever's going on. Internally, I think it's, it really depends on the culture and the availability of people. How busy are you? I would think at Amazon it might be a harder place than here maybe to begin a community. Expedia had one of the largest communities that never took off. Thousands of people years ago when Jared was here, and it was just this natural group of people that were interested in travel. And they were customers, but they all wanted to talk to each other. And they did an experiment with a platform called Brave New back in the day. And it was fascinating, but it never got funded. So if I were Expedia, that's where I'd go.
I would just add, if you're thinking about creating a talent community internally, I would think of people who are trying to solve the same problem and gather people together and maybe just like do a mastermind group for them, or just get them together and really get them in a room or in a hybrid room or in a Zoom room, whatever, and just let them talk about it.
Last chance for a last question.
I have a question.
You have a
If you
question?
don't mind. I don't.
Thank you all. I'm curious, we talked a little bit about online communities, and one of my observations is that, I think Marvin, you were saying a very small number of people end up having almost all the voice. And to me, it doesn't feel like much of a community at some point. If nothing else, there's not a lot of diversity. And I'm wondering if you have any ideas or even products or ways that we could have, one of the many beautiful things about having everybody in the same room is that there's a certain equity to voices, and there's not one person talking, for 98% of the time or whatnot. So if you have any thoughts on how we can have more of that online or in a digital space.
I think you need to, I think you need to think about people as well who might not want to speak up. And that's also fine. A lot of the introverts, myself included, rarely get up to stage. I really much like to be one-on-one, and that's also fine. You're also part of the community. They might not be the loudest voice, but you're still there.
Stole my thunder. No, I was thinking this along the same lines that we all communicate in different ways, and we have our comfort levels, and trying to find people and meet them where they are. I think that's an important part, and recognizing that not everybody's going to want to get up and speak loudly about their mind or their feelings about things. And so, wanting to be thoughtful, if you are designing a community like that, a space where they'd like to best communicate and encourage it, but then also find ways for them to be comfortable so they can share it and listen, do something with it, right? Reinforce the behaviors of when you provide feedback, it does drive action. We're listening to you, and that's an important part as well.
I think I think echo what some of what's been said already. I think one of the things that happens is that just because they're not commenting doesn't mean they're not being part of that community or active. And we kind of moved beyond the vanity metrics, the number of people that were, that joined, to look more importantly at how long they spent on the site. How much, we were having people spend 12 plus minutes on their second visit, which meant they were consuming content. Can't talk anymore. So when you think about that, that means that whatever is being said is interesting enough for them. So that's a good measure too. And whether you can arrange the one-on-one or those kind of things, I think is pretty evident in the platforms that I've been associated with. But people, when they're ready and hit the right topic and the right button, they'll jump in. So just open it up, give them many ways to communicate.
I hear that content is key. Engaging content in one way or the other is key, because that's what makes people want to be a part of that and engage in that conversation and be a part of that community, and that's in it for them potentially. Last chance for questions. No? Okay. In that case, maybe last chance for another question, but for a statement. Would someone be open to share what was in it for them to coming over here, and what did they gain from this event? Oh, we have a raised hand.
I do have a question.
Even better.
It's just being too shy. So anyway, thanks everyone for the event. This is great. One thing I guess I'm wondering, more related to S7, and I guess where you guys trying to go when it comes to community. I've met a lot of people. It seems to be the first time here today. It is my first time being part of one of these events. So moving forward, what can we expect, and what are the sort of plans around building community for S7 and helping others leverage that to help them become better talent acquisition goals? I don't know who to direct the question to this time.
I think that would be me. That actually brilliantly takes us to the closing notes, where we'll have a couple of announcements and we'll have a couple of requests to you and to the other community members who want to build and want to be a part of this community and want to learn. We want to hear from you, and I'll share some things that we are building. But before we get there, thank you, everyone. Give yourself a round of applause. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. It's Wednesday. It was raining. I know. It was hard. So thank you all for showing up. Thank you for everyone who is watching this online. I heard that this sound is not so good online. Apologies about that. We will repost it with fixed audio. Thank you very much, Michelle and the Expedia group for hosting us. And a huge shout out to, well, I'll be honest, putting an event together like this, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of hands to make this happen, and there were some amazing people at Expedia who helped us bringing you all over here, like some of them literally from the reception, bringing you over here. So if you are one of the volunteers, please raise your hand. Without any particular order, thank you very much to Marina Stamas, Robert De Rossiers, apologies, Pat Copeland, Sam Miller, Ryan Sullivan, Johnson, Emily Carson, Grace Mosqueda, Ishani Patankar, Jesse Sanchez, Kim Dam. Thank you very much for making this possible and thank you very much to our speakers, Hara Hermes, Justin Levine, Marvin Smith. You are all officially legends. Hopefully all of you found the content engaging, and you will want to engage with us in the future as well. Thank you very much for the amazing folks. Where are you all? At Turazo. Thank you for coming to this event. Thank you for hopefully nobody leaves hungry, because amongst others, Turazo was responsible for that as well. So yeah, huge thank you to Turazo as well. And I want to give a huge shout out to the S7 team as well. Raise your hand if you are in the room. Again, without any particular order, Chuck Davis, Sarah Baxter, Watson, Martin Smith, Andy Bobby, Kurt Hendrickson, Ara Hermes, Geraldine Hans, Michelle Taylor, Dee Ballard Johnson, Roger Wagner, and Lucas McMillan. I won't put myself on that list, but yeah. So yeah, thank you. And again, thank you yourselves as well, because it always takes an effort to show up and participate. But now we are at your question. What are we building, all these people, and what are we gearing up to? So, one, Sourcing7 was in hibernation. Sourcing7 is around, what was it when you first came together in the Starbucks, Marvin, Michelle? About 2009, so.
Yeah, we partied with coffee before that, right?
Yeah, that's right.
A couple of years.
The official launch, let's say 2009, that's what we're heading up to, almost 15 years now. We're at like 14 years, and I'm dead and horrible with math, sorry. But well, this little thing called COVID happened, and we all went into hibernation a little bit. So we are waking up, we are relaunching, we are rebuilding. Two things that we can announce. One is, in the past, Sourcing7 was all about events, and we will keep that. So you can expect more events like this to come in the future, but we want to do more. That means that we are in the works of creating a brand new website that will be the home of the Sourcing7 Learning Hub. That Learning Hub will have all sorts of content up there, hopefully engaging enough for you all to engage and participate in it. Think online and offline webinars, meetups, written contents, articles, playbooks, you name it. So that's one thing that is coming. Another thing that is coming, and we are working in the background, actually as I was saying, we do believe in Terrazzo as a platform. To the extent that we are building together, we are excited to do kind of like a soft launch, let's say, announcement that in the upcoming few weeks, we'll follow up in an email with the exact details. We'll be launching the Sourcing7 Mentorship Network, in which we invite you all. We invite you all to not just come to learn, but come to teach as well. I think we can all learn from each other, and I think we need to be proud of what we know and what we can share, regardless if we are doing this for 5 minutes, 5 years, 50 years, it doesn't matter. We can learn from each other. And that learning from each other part brings to the other plan. I really love the sourcing community because it's very helpful and open. One thing that made me fall in love with it is that whenever anyone needed help and raised their hands, there were some people just offering to jump on a call. But unfortunately, and maybe this was just my experience, unfortunately these days there is a lot of competition. I hear a lot of agency versus in-house, tech versus non-tech, blue-collar recruiting versus white, like all those. Guys, it doesn't matter. We can all learn from each other regardless of what side are we on. So that's one of the goals that Sourcing7 has, is to eliminate those versuses as much as possible. And for that, we need you all. We need you all who are on all the different parts of the sourcing community, all the different domains, recruiting for all sorts of profiles. And not just recruiting, I think sourcing as a function is a hiring, interviewing, exit interviews, and talent intelligence, you name it. There are so many facets of the talent acquisition world that if that communicates with the sourcing world, we can all become better at what we do. So one of the other goals that we want to have is to broaden the topics that the Sourcing7 offers and not make it only about sourcing, but make it about all the other things as well, and enable everyone to learn from each other. How to do that? Well, we'll have a follow-up email for sure. We'll have a couple of things in there. One is, please sign up for our mentorship network if you're interested in participating in any way in that. Also, we are building all these things, but we need a lot of help. So we are sort of recruiting. We're not offering a job. We are a nonprofit, and we have empty pockets, not even deep pockets. So we're looking for volunteers to get involved, and you can get involved in so many ways. We have some official positions open. We have some areas around, like, for example, marketing, community engagement, community management, et cetera, where we need people to start building that function and helping S7 go into that space. We need a lot of volunteers. Running events is hard. It takes, it's similar to hiring, it takes a village. So we also want to hear from all of you who are open to volunteering at Sourcing7 events, regardless if that's online or offline. Like, we need people who can engage with the community, help with program management, help with setting up events, helping with the whole online and offline stuff. So if you want to get involved, I won't tell you what you should do. I want you to think about what's in it for you. What do you want to become better in? Maybe what are the skills that you want to master and learn, or maybe just train a little bit. And believe me, we'll have work for you. We'll have some things for you to do, regardless of where your strong points are. And we also will send out a community survey, because we have a lot of ideas on what we want to build, how do we want to build it, but we are blank. We are like cars without headlights in the dark. We are just going to that direction that we feel that it's good, but we don't know if that's the good direction. So we'll send out a community survey. We will ask you to tell us what would bring value for you, what would make you engage in this community. Is that events like this, more webinars, articles, podcasts? What type of content? Do you want to hear more about AI? Do you want to hear more about exact sourcing? Do you want to hear more strategical conversations on how to be brilliant, or you want to hear about tactical applications of stuff that you can take away with you and implement tomorrow? So we have a lot of questions to you. Also, answering your question is reply to the email, complete the survey, and in the email we'll have a form for volunteers to sign up. Get in touch with us, and let's have a conversation. And I would be excited to have all of you as volunteers if you're open, right? So, but yeah, and even before the email, if you want to get in touch with us, it's hello@sourcing7.org. We do exist. Pop us an email anytime, or ping any of us on any online platform that you come across. And kind of like the final note is the invitation. Come and let's build together, let's learn together. Thank you.